So this poem is a visual poem, and so first I'll just give a description of how it looks. Essentially, it looks like a winding river, and at the very end, the last line is in the middle, and it creates a fork. So the name of the poem is Mharutoyu Abacha, and in English that means a forked river. So just imagine that it looks on one side, on the left column, there's text. On the right column, there's text. In the middle, there's this negative space, and it's this winding river. And at the very end, it goes into two separate forks. So there are two ways that I think you can read this poem. The first is by reading the left column all the way down, and then the right column all the way down. And then the second way is to read it left to right, as you would read a book or something like that. So going from the first line of the left column to the first line of the second column, second line of the first column, second line of the second column, and so on. And so what I'm going to do in this recording is read it both ways. So first I'll read it left column and right, and then I'll read it as you would read it a book. So without further ado, Mharutoyu Abacha, a forked road. Or excuse me, a forked river, number 1. Part 1. The way to make an inchoative is to take an adjective and add the archaic translative case marker xi and the verb marker nta, giving you a fully conjugable inchoative verb. Get better. This is a prime example of an inchoative. An inchoative marks the beginning or the becoming of a scene. When you think about it, in analytical languages like English, one just adds fluff to produce an inchoative. In my language, the verb is actually changed into something new. I want to be heard. First person pronoun. Desiderative auxiliary. Passive infinitive. Celia richtingly geobuhwe at geobma bishifiat shadlik. Get better. I want to get better. Part 2. When I'm sitting on my hands, I cannot speak, at least not how I'd like to. Sometimes I joke that I'm queer, Italian, and autistic, so speaking without my hands is impossible. And sometimes they get that I am joking, but mostly they are uncomfortable that I brought up controversial topics. Part 3. Red phalaropes must spin to eat. They create vortices that pull in plankton, and every visitor thinks they've gone batshit crazy, in quotes, when in fact they are just doing what they do to survive. Part 4. To make a causative, you add da to any verb, even an inchoative. Move on. To cause to get better. I don't know if I can, but I must try to hold in one hand the memories of the past and the potential for the future, and balance them with the needs of others, whom I want to respect, despite the pain they have caused me, and I have caused them. I keep returning to this same dilemma, time after time. How do I move on, when I can never seem to make the right decision, when given the choice between ineffability, a state of being which I've rarely felt, but long aspired towards, and choosing the blue pill? I somehow forget the previous travels down the rabbit hole, and binge until all I can do is loathe the way my stomach feels, bursting at the seams. Trauma will make you do some fucked up shit, because all you can think about are those nights when your aunt told you that her bisexual neighbors propositioned her and her all-American husband, and every single homosexual wants to fuck a child, and are you a gay? Because if you are, that's okay, she and the rest of my family would say. You just need to tell us. I'm not looking for sympathy, but my toes are moving so fast, and I'd be doing jumping jacks if my stomach weren't a brick, that even that wouldn't be enough to eschew the tension I feel in every cell. It's as if I can feel them undergoing mitosis right now. Powerful. I have power. Jelenovaya. I can cause myself to be better. To get better, excuse me. Hidapsa. Une. Derla. Jevetat. Adat derla. Mitche Yoavi. I am ready. Now column 2. To forget memories, because if you don't, you will never. Who cares, really, about you? The language I first spoke, which forever seemed distant to my head, my heart, yet I speak it anyways because Adzurstinit, Geo Kumwither, Unterla, Uvexinta, Geo Uvexinta. Suddenly the thoughts I have explode, which freaks them out, because statistically speaking, I am an anomaly, and though I live in middle-class suburbia, in a house that has a white picket fence, I will not be silenced. In the murky water that flows by my house, I finally realized that, like the ocean, I have power. Therapy and lots of self and community care, though they help a lot, will never truly erase the pain that I have had to deal with, but that doesn't mean that I can't. Celia Beekning, Jeff Lockdown, Momal Masoa, Jachlena, Yasa, Rokachit Berla Huolita, Celia Ripmam Ston Elkajit Fis, Jeviala Elka Sherlik, Jachfeta Mixvar. When I was a child, for a while, I enjoyed that I liked the colors pink, purple, and gray, as well as the way sea green made me feel pretty, in ways no one else understood, not to mention how they would often tell me how different I was, which I didn't actually understand until I was in the 3rd grade, and Max told me we couldn't be friends because Dries was a better boy than I was, and it wasn't until years later that I realized that those nights, when you stay up late thinking about the stars you see from your bedroom window, and the waves you can still feel lifting your body to and fro, rhythmically lulling you to sleep, to escape to redemption, to get to a place where you belonged, where people understood that getting there doesn't just happen. You must work long and hard to cause relief, which you seek, which you believe in, even though you have never felt it yourself. You still believe that you are. Jefea el you vaccintata. Jefea pen you vaccintata. Jel skuchveasa. Celia. Jimin. Jevea thought that I am ready. So that was way number 1. And now I will read it the second way, that is, as you would read a book. Part 1. The way to make an inchoative is to forget, to take an adjective and add memories. The archaic transitive case marker C, because the verb markanta, if you don't, giving you a fully conjugable inchoative verb, you will never get better. This is a prime example of an inchoative. Who cares? An inchoative marks the beginning, really, or the becoming of a state about you. When you think about it, in analytical languages like English, the language I first spoke, one just adds fluff to produce an inchoative, which forever seemed distant. In my language, the verb is actually changed to my head into something new, and my heart, yet I speak it anyways because I want to be heard. Jeokum wifir, Adzurstinit, first person pronoun, J, desiderative auxiliary, O, passive infinitive, Kim wifir, Celia Shaitingi, Jeo Puhua, Jeo Ibma, Bishifua Shadlik, Unterla, get better, U vaccinta, I want to get better, Jeo U vaccinta. Part 2. When I'm sitting on my hands, suddenly, I cannot speak the thoughts I have, at least not how I'd like to explode. Sometimes I joke that I'm queer, Italian, and autistic, which freaks them out, so speaking with my hands is impossible, because statistically speaking, and sometimes they get, I am an anomaly, that I am joking, and though I live in middle-class suburbia, but mostly they are uncomfortable in a house that has a white picket fence, that I brought up controversial topics, I will not be silenced. Red phalaropes must spin to eat in the murky water, They create vortices that pull in plankton that flows by my house, and every visitor thinks they've gone batshit crazy, in quotes. I finally realized that, like when in fact, they are just doing what they do to survive. The ocean. I have power. Part 4. To make a causative, you add therapy, and lots of self-care, and lots of self and community care. That, any verb, even though they help a lot, will never truly erase the pain, and in coative, though I have had to help with, though I've had to deal with, but that doesn't mean that I can't move on. To cause to get better. Vaccine thought that. I don't know if I can, but I must try. To hold in one hand the memories of the past, and the potential for the future, and balance them with the needs of others, whom I want to respect, despite the pain they have caused me, and I have caused them. I keep returning to this same dilemma, time after time. How do I move on when I was a child? When I can never seem to make the right decision, for while I enjoyed, when given the choice between ineffability, that I like the colors pink, purple, and gray, a state of being which I've rarely felt, as well as the way sea green made me feel pretty, but long aspired to in ways no one else understood, and choosing the blue pill, not to mention how they would often tell, I somehow forgot the previous me, how different I was, travels down the rabbit hole, which I didn't actually understand until I was, and binge until all I can do is in 3rd grade, and Max told me we couldn't be friends. Loathe the way my stomach feels because Dries was a better boy than I was, bursting at the seams, and it wasn't until years later that I realized that trauma will make you do some fucked up shit. Because all you can think about are those nights when you stay up late, those nights when your aunt told you, thinking about the stars, that her bisexual neighbors propositioned you see from your bedroom window, her and her all-American husband, and the ways, and every single homosexual wants to fuck a child. You can still feel lifting and argue a gay body to and fro, rhythmically lulling you, because if you are, that's okay, to sleep, to escape, to redemption. She and the rest of the family would say, to get to a place where you belonged. You just need to tell us, where people understand that I'm not looking for sympathy, but my toes are moving so fast. Getting there doesn't just happen, and I'd be doing jumping jacks if you must work long and hard to cause relief. My stomach weren't a brick which you seek, but even that wouldn't be enough to eschew you believe in, the tension I feel in every cell, even though you have never felt it yourself. It's as if I can feel them undergoing mitosis. You still believe that right now you are powerful. I have power. I can cause myself to get better. Hit up sound earn thurla. Jeoskufiasa. Jivetata terla. Sidia. Unche yovi. Fumin. Jiveatatat. I am ready.